Good evening. The strike's back on. Redundancy notices have been served and there's the deal that apparently never was. The two-week truce between Birmingham's bin workers and the City Council shattered this morning. Residents' relief that the piles of rotting rubbish were receding turned to disbelief and dismay this morning as the refuse collectors returned to the picket lines. The Unite union accused City Council leader John Clancy of reneging on a deal they'd reached to end the dispute. Councillor Clancy insists there was no such deal. We have an extended interview with the leader in just a moment. But first of all, this report from Amy Cole.
Back to square one.
Once again, Birmingham's bin men are back on the picket line and they are furious. Now, all bin men who work at the back of the lorries and are on a grade 3 have been served redundancy notices by Birmingham City Council today. Their jobs no longer exist, and that's because the council says it needs to save money and modernise the service.
But it insists there are other jobs available.
We have an alternative job of equal status, equal pay, elsewhere in the organisation, possibly in street cleansing, in our parks. Those jobs are there and waiting for you. They're permanent.
But the bin workers don't want those jobs.
We are moving to a point where we have to modernise and change the service.
A festering pile in Small Heath. The rot has definitely set in. It was only a couple of weeks ago the Unite union said it had reached a deal with the authority to temporarily suspend the strike. Today the council said there was no deal, which has angered the union.
This is safety at the back of the bins. They are trying to downgrade a job at the back of the bins, trying to remove £3,500 to £5,000 a person at the back of the bins. I did a deal with John Clancy. Unite had a deal with the council. It was a good deal that kept salaries but gave the council what the council needed.
In Erdington, Ingrid Gardner says during the suspension her road was missed off collections and she wonders what's going to happen next.
Whilst I can empathise with nobody wants to lose salary and lose an income, but the residents are actually suffering and something has to be rectified, some agreement has to be resolved.
And Robert Blackburn wants to see a resolution too.
If you're going to lose your job and you're going to have to face a cut, I know that there are other posts available, but if you want to move from the bins, do you want to do street cleaning or do you want to work in the parks? It's a silly situation.
Unite says it's issued a letter through its solicitors calling on the council to withdraw the redundancies. And if that doesn't happen by Monday, it will issue proceedings in the High Court. Amy Cole, BBC Midlands Today, Birmingham.
Well, the language used by both sides today has been hotter than at any time during this dispute. When the strike was suspended just 2 weeks ago, the bin workers union Unite praised City Council leader John Clancy for travelling the extra mile to achieve this solution despite the reservations of some top council officials. Well, today Mr Clancy gave his first TV interview about the dispute to our political reporter Catherine Stancheshan with a very different version of events.
Unite the union says that a deal was agreed that meant that those positions we're talking about, the grade 3 positions, would be kept.
Deal or no deal, there was no deal. My cabinet and I came together with a negotiating position to try to see what we could do to go that extra mile to get a negotiated solution. If there was a ceasefire, if you like, the strike was suspended, it was not ended. If there'd been a deal to end the dispute, the strike would have ended. It wasn't, it was suspended. So there was no deal.
We're hearing from certain bin men today. They thought they had a deal. That isn't the case. Have you got a message for those workers?
Well, I think, I'm afraid the Unite leadership really ought to have been more straight with its own members as to whether there was a deal. Perhaps they sold a deal to their members that wasn't there because there was no deal. And what I would say to them is, about 1,200 people in this City Council are going to lose their jobs this year. As a result of what happened yesterday, none of them are actually losing their job. We have bent over backwards to help them in particular, appropriately because of the importance of the service. The redundancy notices have been issued, but everyone still has a job who has been given those redundancy notices. They can either have a job at exactly the same level somewhere else in the council, or they've still got a job on the bins. So the the posts have gone, but actually the actual employees are still there. Nobody is losing their job.
This is some members of your own party suggesting that this has been handled badly and that your position is not tenable.
I've been elected leader of the Labour group 3 times in the last 20 months, twice unopposed. I intend to carry on.
And your message to the people of Birmingham who are going to see this strike action continue?
We will have contingency plans in operation to ensure in the short term, if the strike does go back on and continues, that we will attempt to ensure that everyone gets a collection at least once every 2 weeks, and we will tell them when that collection is.
A dispute we'll obviously be keeping a close eye on. Stephanie Slater